Email deliverability. Avoiding the spam box in 2025. Why deliverability is a revenue problem in 2025. If your outbound engine runs on email, deliverability is the fuel line. And in 2025, that line is getting squeezed hard. With filtering tighter across Gmail, Yahoo, and Microsoft, sent has never meant seen less than it does right now. A 2025 deliverability report found 16.9% of emails never reach their destination, which is pipeline leakage before an SDR ever gets a chance to start a conversation. The filtering pressure is especially visible in the US, where more than 10+% of emails were routed to spam in 2024. At the same time, global inboxes are flooded. Roughly 46 to 47% of email traffic is classified as spam or unwanted, which means mailbox providers are incentivized to be aggressive and risk false positives rather than let bad senders through. For B2B teams, this turns deliverability into a core revenue KPI, not a marketing ops checkbox. Whether you run an in-house SDR function or partner with an outbound sales agency like SalesHive, the goal is the same. Protect inbox placement so your cold outreach can actually generate replies, meetings, and pipeline instead of quietly dying in junk folders. Deliverability versus delivery, the metrics that actually move pipeline. A common trap is celebrating delivery while losing the inbox. Delivery rate simply means the message didn't bounce and the recipient server accepted it. Deliverability is whether the email lands in inbox versus spam or promotions, or gets silently discarded. It's why a team can show 98+% delivery and still struggle to book meetings, because delivered doesn't guarantee visibility. This gap has widened as open tracking becomes less reliable and filtering becomes more selective. Even when average B2B open rates hover around 36.7%, privacy features and proxy loading can inflate what looks like engagement. In practice, reply rate, positive response rate, and meetings booked are the metrics we anchor to, because they correlate far more directly with true inbox placement and real buyer intent. Use the table below to align your team, especially if you're scaling sales outsourcing or onboarding an outsourced sales team, so everyone is optimizing for the same outcomes. The provider reality. Gmail, Yahoo, and Microsoft are enforcing stricter standards. Mailbox providers now behave less like neutral carriers and more like gatekeepers of user experience. For bulk sending to Gmail, defined as 5,000 plus emails per day to Gmail addresses, Gmail and Yahoo require authentication and increasingly enforce sender quality signals. If you're an SDR agency, a cold email agency, or an internal team scaling fast, crossing that bulk line can happen earlier than expected once you add multiple domains, mailboxes, and sequences. Complaint rates are the clearest enforcement lever. Gmail's policy targets spam complaint rates below 0.10% and flags senders at 0.30% plus, which effectively forces you to control list risk and message relevance like you would any core product metric. In other words, a few bad lists or overly aggressive sequences can contaminate your whole domain reputation and drag every rep's inboxing down with it. Microsoft is the quietest, and for many B2B teams, the most brutal. Office 365 inbox placement reportedly fell from 77.4% to 50.7% year over year, which is why outreach into mid-market and enterprise Microsoft tenants can feel cursed. The takeaway is straightforward. You need cleaner infrastructure, tighter list hygiene, and more conservative sending behavior to earn inbox placement, especially when your ICP lives behind Microsoft filtering. Build the foundation: authentication, domains, and warm-up that scale. In 2025, authentication is table stakes, not a nice-to-have. When SPF, DKIM, and DMARC are missing or misaligned, you're essentially asking providers to treat your mail as suspicious by default, exactly the opposite of what you want for cold outreach. We recommend treating infrastructure work like revenue enablement. If inbox placement drops by 5 to 10 points, the downstream impact on replies and meetings is immediate. The second foundational choice is domain strategy. Using one domain and one sending identity for everything concentrates risk. One problematic campaign can drag marketing, product, and outbound into the same reputation hole. A safer approach is a deliberate domain and subdomain plan that separates core communications from outbound, paired with disciplined governance so your sales development agency motion stays consistent even as you hire SDRs and expand into new segments. Finally, decouple sending volume from new domain warm-up. Don't blast thousands of messages from a fresh domain or mailbox. Ramp gradually over weeks and prioritize high-propensity segments first so early engagement signals are positive. Warm-up tools can help maintain healthy patterns, but they can't rescue poor list quality or spammy messaging, so use them as support, not as a strategy. Deliverability isn't an email problem, it's a pipeline problem, and the fastest-growing teams treat it like a system, not a setting. Engineer your list like a product, because providers judge you like one. Most deliverability failures don't start with copy, they start with list inputs. If you keep blasting the same cold list indefinitely, mailbox providers learn that recipients don't engage with you, and your future sends get pushed further from the inbox. The fix is to treat list-building services and segmentation rules like a product roadmap: recurring QA checks, enrichment, and clear retirement criteria for risky or stale records. Ruthless hygiene is still the fastest win for SDR teams. When your average deliverability is around 83.1%, you can't afford preventable bounces and spam complaints. Every invalid address and every low-intent segment is a reputation tax you pay repeatedly. Build engagement-based cohorts so your highest propensity accounts carry the most volume, while unengaged contacts are suppressed or moved to a slower cadence before they can drag your domain down. Practically, this means you run outbound with sunset rules, not hope. If a contact hasn't engaged within a defined window, often 60 to 90 days depending on your motion, you stop hammering them and refocus on cleaner segments. This is also where a B2B sales agency or cold email agency can add leverage. Consistent governance across mailboxes, domains, and reps prevents one person's spray and pray from damaging the entire program. Messaging and cadence that keep complaints low and replies high. Mailbox providers reward engagement and punish friction, and your copy is part of that signal. Overly aggressive CTAs, deceptive subject lines, and long pitches don't just get ignored, they increase the odds of spam complaints, especially at scale. The safer approach is short, conversational emails that quickly explain why you're reaching out, make the ask easy, and make it easy to opt out without drama. This matters because complaint thresholds are unforgiving. When policies effectively demand complaint rates below 0.10% and treat 0.30% plus as a red line, your sequence design needs to be built for relevance, not volume. If your cadence is too tight or your targeting is too broad, you'll see the warning signs first as reply rates soften, and then as inboxing collapses. From a channel mix perspective, strong teams also avoid single point of failure dependence on email. Pairing email with LinkedIn outreach services and a disciplined calling motion gives you resilience when filters tighten. It's one reason many buyers evaluate a combined cold calling agency and outbound email partner. Cold calling services can keep conversations moving even when inbox placement temporarily dips. Monitoring and recovery. Build a deliverability runbook before you need it. Most teams scramble only after meetings fall off a cliff, but deliverability recovery is faster when you have a runbook. At minimum, you want a weekly rhythm that ties domain health to pipeline output, inbox placement by provider, bounce rate, complaint rate, and engagement by segment. When you can quantify the impact, for example, what a Microsoft inboxing dip does to enterprise reply rates, leadership treats deliverability as a revenue lever instead of a technical distraction. Set a 7-day baseline audit and then manage against it. Track the gap between delivered and inboxed, especially because legitimate emails can be accepted by servers while overall reach still suffers. Remember that 16.9% non-reach rate and the reality that average deliverability isn't good enough for outbound. When you see a shift, pause the riskiest segments first, reduce volume, test simpler copy, and rebuild engagement signals before you scale back up. If you run sales outsourcing or manage multiple SDRs across regions, central governance becomes non-negotiable. Letting reps send from ungoverned personal inboxes creates inconsistent identities and makes it hard to detect or fix reputation damage. In our experience at SalesHive, the teams that win treat deliverability like any other operational system. One owner, clear thresholds, and documented actions when metrics drift. Next steps: a practical 30-day plan to stay out of spam in 2025. Start with clarity, not guesswork. In the next 7 days, benchmark inbox placement, inbox versus spam, by provider, plus bounce and complaint rates, then connect those numbers to replies and meetings booked. When US spam routing can exceed 10% plus and Microsoft inboxing can fall near 50.7%, you need provider-level visibility to know whether you have a targeting problem, a deliverability problem, or both. In days 8 through 21, tighten fundamentals. Confirm SPF, DKIM, DMARC alignment, clean the list aggressively, and implement engagement-based suppression so you stop training providers that your emails aren't wanted. If you're launching new domains or adding mailboxes as you hire SDRs, ramp volume gradually and resist the temptation to catch up with big send days. This is also the window to simplify formatting. In cold outreach, plain text and minimal links tend to be safer than heavy templates that resemble bulk marketing. In days 22 through 30, operationalize what you learned into a repeatable system. Assign a deliverability owner, document your runbook, and decide what you'll standardize across your outbound sales agency workflow: domains, thresholds, list QA, and sequence templates, so performance doesn't depend on individual rep habits. Whether you build in-house or partner with a sales development agency, the teams that keep scaling are the ones that treat deliverability as an integrated system of infrastructure, list quality, sending behavior, and messaging.